All right, let's cover gerrymandering. Welcome to the gerrymandering video. And my hope is this short video will help you understand a fairly complicated but extremely important issue that continues to affect the United States. This is a portrait of Elbridge Gerry. Even though it's called gerrymandering, it's named after Elbridge Gerry, the first person that we know actually manipulated the reapportionment system for their own benefit. So let's talk a little bit of the background. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution state representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to the respective numbers. The actual enumeration, so it started 3 years after the Constitution was signed. You can basically read that. Okay, so the first census was taken, just like they said, 3 years after the first meeting of Congress, and every 10 years as directed by Congress. So that's why we have this the census. The last census we had was in 2020. And in 5 years, in 2030, we will have another census. So the census is basically a head count of every individual, whether they are a citizen or not, age or not, whatever. Whether you're living here, they count people that are in the military, even overseas, or missionaries or whatever. They actually are counted in the actual head count of the United States, okay? There are some statutory and legal sections about how the census will be carried out. And requiring people to participate. And right now, if failure to participate or accurately report is a $500 fine, and failure to report your information could be a $10,000 fine for reporting accurate information. So they take the census very, very seriously. Essentially, what the Constitution says is our representatives in the House of Representatives that are based on population shall be apportioned according, or divvied up, okay, apportioned according to the respective population based upon the actual count held in a federal census every 10 years. I thought you might want to see a map of the most recent census. Everything in gray that you see is unchanged. The states that are in dark green, there's only one. Texas picked up 2 seats. The light greens each picked up 1 seat. And everything in yellow lost a seat, okay? So after the 2020 census, some states picked up seats and others lost seats. This makes sense, okay? But I want to point this out. By law, and I'm trying to remember if it was in about 1920, the number was set at 435. Until there's a change in the law, that number of 435 people in the House of Representatives, it's going to stay the same. So you can see that Texas picked up 2 seats, okay? That doesn't mean we added the number of seats to 437. That just means some other states had to give up a seat. I want you to think about what this means, okay? Basically, Texas in the last 10 years picked up the entire population of North and South Dakota. Or conversely, Illinois lost the population of the state of North Dakota or South Dakota. So that kind of gives you an idea of how challenging it is to actually pick up another seat. Okay, it's important though. Why is this so important? Okay, because at the head count determines how much money the federal government is going to give your state is based on the number of people who live there. So states have a really big incentive to make sure that everybody is counted accurately. Okay, so after this reapportionment, after this counting, there will be a shift in seats if the population justifies it. And redistricting is what happens when they draw the lines inside of the state to determine where those representatives are. So I'm not sure you can see my arrow, but you all know where Wyoming is. Well, Wyoming's really easy. They only have one representative. Every state's guaranteed at least one representative. But if for some reason Wyoming were to pick up 1 million people in the next 10 years, they would need to draw a line somewhere through the state of Wyoming to divide it up as evenly as possible. So Idaho is divided into 2. Washington's divided into 10 districts. That's called redistricting, that drawing the lines after the seats have shifted based on reapportionment. This is this idea of one person, one vote, okay? So if you want to take a pause and take and look at this map and see how many representatives, so you can see California has 52 representatives. Florida has 28 representatives. So you can look and see, this will give you an idea what the population is comparatively across the United States by just looking at this map. Okay, again, this is the premise or expectation that every person's vote will be roughly equal. This is a joke, okay? Should voters be able to pick their representatives, or should representatives be able to pick their voters? Well, that brings us to this concept of gerrymandering, manipulating those lines to benefit a person, a political party, or a group, to give them an unfair, an unfair advantage. Generally, it's going to a political party. So while gerrymandering is very similar to redistricting, gerrymandering is the intentional drawing of lines to manipulate or control for one particular political party to maintain their advantage. So there are things that are called safe districts. So who decides where these boundaries or these district lines are going to be? Every state gets to determine this for themselves. For most states, the boundaries or lines are drawn by the state legislature. The state legislature determines how the state will be divided up if there's been a shift. So, for example, Utah had no shift, Idaho had no shift, Missouri had no shift, so they don't need to redraw the lines. But if there's been a shift by the count in the census, they're going to have to redistrict, okay? And they create what we call safe districts. They're created by either a majority of the Republican or Democratic voters, okay? So why does that matter? Well, if you're a Republican and you live in a district that has lines drawn to have the most Democrats in it as possible, as a Republican, you're going to feel very disenfranchised. You're going to feel like your vote doesn't count. But the same goes. If you're a Democrat and you live in an area that's mostly Republican, or it's not, but they draw the lines so it is, you're going to be disenfranchised. You're going to feel like your vote doesn't count. So if there are enough voters of either party, or specifically one party, that's going to go one way or the other. Let's say you are a Republican that lives in a heavily Democratic district. It's going to happen. There just are more. But if they intentionally draw the lines to manipulate it, that's gerrymandering, okay? And people really, really lose a desire to vote and participate. Sometimes this redistricting is done by a nonpartisan committee or a commission, a commission or a committee. They try to avoid any kind of a partisan process, but let's be honest, it's really hard to try to have anything that is nonpartisan, because partisanship is part of our system, unfortunately. However, even these commissions sometimes have a final decision. But I want to point out, it can be challenged in a state court. Somebody has to bring it to court and say, I feel like this is an unfair advantage. So there is a process, but it's in the state, not at the federal level. Okay, so I gave you this map. So look at the first box. It doesn't have any lines drawn in it. Let's say 60% is the purple party and 40% is the gray party. And they say, okay, well, we've got to draw this into 3 seats. We got to district this or apportion it for 3 seats in the House of Representatives. Well, if they draw those lines like that, the people in that are the gray party, they're going to feel very disenfranchised that their vote doesn't count. Or you could draw the lines like the last box, where the purple party is disenfranchised because they've drawn the lines to benefit the purple party, even though they're the minority party. Or in the third box, they've drawn the lines, even though there are more purple party members, the gray party has more votes. That's gerrymandering. So both of these boxes don't allow very good representation. So think about it. I mean, I want you to think about what it would take to make it, if we were making it fair, okay, if we were making it very representative, so that you would have two purples and one gray. That would be more representative of the people who live in the, or are purple party or gray party, okay? So gerrymandering is also has different concepts. One's cracking and one's packing. Now I'm going to show you a slide on that in just a minute. Okay. Cracking is when you take a group and you try to split them into multiple districts so their power is diluted. Okay. That's the third box here. Okay. And they won't have enough to try to get a person to represent them. And packing is the opposite. It's when you have enough of a group to put them in one district so they can elect the person of their choice. But either way, in this process, you've diluted the rest of the group so they can't elect anybody. Okay, so here's a really nice graphic from Cornell Policy Review of cracked and packed districts. Okay, so look, there are 60% blue, 40% red, with 50 precincts. With 50 districts, we've got 50 areas, depending on how you want to split them up, okay? So you can divide them into 5. So every precinct has, like 10 areas. The one in the middle is drawn up so the blue wins every seat. This one on the bottom right. They've drawn it so the blue wins every seat, even if there's red. And you can see in the other that there is red voters there, okay? So they've cracked that district and divided it up, okay? So even though red only holds 50% of the population in the districts, they've been set up so the red wins 3 seats to 2. That's up in the far left corner. And on the bottom, okay, they've packed it so that the red has a majority and the blue is limited. So think about what you would do to avoid cracking and packing. That's the trick. Okay, so I want to show you some examples of some really interesting shapes. This is in Illinois, okay? And by the way, just to say, computers have made the ability to gerrymander really easy because individual data is available. We can identify house by house whether people vote or identify as Republican or Democrats. So they can set up some, looking at this map, some really interesting shapes. Okay, so obviously this is a gerrymandered district, giving somebody a political advantage. Okay, let me give you the rules for redistricting. There's some basic general rules. First, you've got to have about the same number of people. You've got to have a pretty equal number in each district. Okay. Second, they must be contiguous or all connecting. You can see how they have connected here. Okay. They can't be completely separated, like one on one side of the state and the other. They have to be connected somehow, and that includes a bridge or through water. Okay. But if you look, it's supposed to be compact. Okay. Clearly, this is not compact. Yeah, they're connected barely by a shoestring, but they could probably come back and go, all right, well, it's pretty similar to other size districts. Okay. Let me show you another map. Believe this one, I can't remember. Oh, yeah, this is in Ohio. You can see that it is in Ohio. Yeah, you can see where there's some water that runs in between, so they can say it's connected by bridges. But this is such an obvious gerrymandered map, so they can keep a certain political group in power. Here is another one. This is a group in Maryland. This is a map from Maryland. Okay. So again, take a look and just you can visually see what gerrymandering is and what it is that they're trying to accomplish here. Okay, so for review, reapportionment or redistricting and gerrymandering are all related, but they are not the same. Okay, reapportionment is a constitutionally mandated, yes, we're going to count and figure out how many people there are. After we've counted, if we have to, we will redraw those districts. But gerrymandering is the intentional manipulation of those lines to achieve, for one party or another, the ability to pick their person in the House of Representatives. Okay. The census is held every 10 years. The use of computers makes it very, very easy. Both parties do it. Why do we care? Okay. We care because we watched the video on Congress, specifically the House of Representatives. The party that with the majority of seats gets to pick the Speaker of the House. They get to chair every committee. It affects the electoral vote for President of the United States. So gerrymandering is something we should be very, very concerned about, and we should be paying attention if that's happening. Okay. And finally, and in conclusion, do I care? Shouldn't we all care? I care. You should care. Okay. Gerrymandering should help you understand. This video should help you understand your application assignment number 3. Good luck and goodbye.